All right, Sports Card Strategy Show. Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com and Kendall McKee, Lefty McKee, apparently is the name. Kendall is my co-host. He's with Wild Cards Box Breaks on Facebook and justbaseball.com. And you guys have been bringing it strong, and we're going to bring it strong today. We are brought to you by marketmoversapp.com, by Sports Card Investor. It's a great place to track the data of your entire collection and learn who to buy low and when to sell them high. If you use the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, you actually save 20% at marketmoversapp.com. So we both want you to do that. And we also want you to check out the newly updated Sports Card Investment Report at nooffseason.com. If you marry those two things together, I think you can really hit some home runs on your sports card investments. Kendall, thanks for joining me, man. How you doing today?
I'm good. I just got off my so the way my work splits, I'm in 2 shifts. I just got off my first shift and ready to roll, ready to talk about sports cards. Really, I had a wild weekend of basketball and watched a ton of it, and man, I'm ready to chat about what I've seen in the market recently. So
that's awesome. We're going to kind of hit all sports today to a certain extent. And one thing I wanted to start with is recent pickups and recent sales. So I've got a couple of things to share, but wanted to let you go first. Got anything fun to share with us about any cards that you've recently bought and or sold?
Yeah, so I've only bought 1 card in the past week, and that's because I have some funds rolling in from some eBay sales that haven't hit yet. But I bought a Christian Santana Chrome auto, just his base auto, but it was around $50, and I think it's a super good buy right now. He is for what he is in the product and for what he is in the minor leagues and his numbers for Detroit. I think he's an absolute steal at that price. And so ended up picking up another one of his. He's another guy that I've been picking up this off season that I haven't been super high on, not because he doesn't deserve it, but just because, like there's so many people that you could be looking at, and eventually some of them just like slip by you for some reason, and you just maybe don't gravitate towards certain players that some other people do. But I wanted to pick up at least one more of his before the baseball gets rolling out, if it gets rolling out. And then a unique thing that happened to me this week is, have you seen the new verification service that eBay offers?
I heard about it. I heard quite a bit about it, but tell us what happened.
Yeah, so I actually sold a card last week that fit in this verification realm or whatever. I think it's like an over $700 value gets pushed on to this authenticator. And so I sold a Julio Rodriguez out of 5. It was the biggest card I've ever sold. It's the biggest card I ever bought last year. But I was able to get some of my investment back on that. But it was really fun to go through that process of selling my biggest buy at one point. But I sold it, and because it went over that $700 market, it went to that eBay authenticator, which I think is by SGC. It's a service that eBay has now put into their higher end market, where they authenticate it and make sure it's legit, which I know that some other apps have been doing in terms of premium clothing items and stuff like that. But it was a unique thing that I've experienced. And from my experience, I don't know what it looks like on the consumer side, but from the buyer side, it slows the transaction down by like a week and a half. So I'm still in it. So I don't know if I can really give you a full perspective yet, but I do think it's kind of a cool idea. But it is taking quite a long time. So
yeah, that's interesting. So I heard that it's raw cards only, right? So if the card's graded, it's already been authenticated, so it doesn't have to go through that process. So this
Yeah.
is a non-graded card, and I think it's actually CSG, not SGC.
Okay.
But you know, uh, it's kind of the same thing for the seller. Like it's going through a reputable grading company. Seems like it's good for the buyer, especially if you're gonna drop that much money on a raw card. You want to know that it's not trimmed or some autograph. Maybe the autograph isn't fake. Obviously, these are huge deals because you're dropping that much money on a card. But
Yeah.
that's cool that you're the first person that I know to have gone through that process. And it kind of makes sense because in the baseball prospecting world, we've talked about this in past shows. It's unique because you do have raw cards that can just skyrocket in value over the course of months or even, just over a year, depending on what happens with the prospect. So we will anxiously await the results of you going through this transaction. My guess, obviously, is that it's going to go fine. You're going to get it verified, and the buyer will get his or her card, and you're going to get your money. But yeah, it's interesting that it takes a while. How long? Like when did it go into the verification process? How many days ago?
So I delivered it. Well, I sent it off, I think last Monday, and it got there on Tuesday, and then it's been in verification process for a week.
Yeah,
So
this could be slow, right? I mean, this could actually that would be the major downside to this is that a lot of these transactions are going to happen, and much like the card grading companies being backed up with their major backlogs. Like I don't know anything about CSG, but I know PSA obviously is always backed up, Beckett's always backed up, and
right.
SGC turns it around. But even like SGC, who's the fastest, and CSG, my guess is that they're not going to be as fast as SGC. Like this could be like a month, this could be like 6 weeks. Who
Yeah.
knows, right? Like
Yeah.
where before you actually get it authenticated and then get your money. But I mean, I guess it's good for the buyer. So
Yeah, I think another thing that would kind of be cool that I don't know if eBay is necessarily going in this direction, but I think it would be kind of neat if you offered. So it's already going to the grading verification, whatever. What if you could offer like to get it graded while it's there?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
already there. You're already going to be verifying it. Can you slab it up for an extra, you know, certain price, an extra 30, $40? Could you slab it for me? As a buyer, I think that would be kind of a cool offering.
I totally agree. And I think like what a great way for CSG, who's legit but not the most popular grading company,
Right.
to potentially become popular. To be like,
Yeah.
hey, we've got your card. Even, and I don't know how people would feel about this, like drop a comment below if you like or hate this idea. But even if they were to say like, hey, we think this is a 9, or we think this is a 9.5, would you like it? And allow like, or even to say like this is 80% chance a 9.5, or something where you're
Yeah. Just something more
giving
than
the
just like
buyer
a
a value
cool thing.
proposition. Yeah, because yeah, no, but I love your idea to just even have it graded in the first place while it's sitting there. Makes a ton of sense. And what a great way to what a great experience overall. The other thing I think would be great, like, so let's say you um, go through this as a seller of high end raw cards. Like
Yeah.
my guess is that like this isn't the last time that you're gonna sell like a high end raw
No.
card. What would be great
No.
is if the process could be quicker for uh, based on reputation. So maybe quicker for someone like you. Like let's say you sell 10, 12, 13, 20, etc. of these high-end raw cards over the next several months. It would be great
Yeah.
if they could speed up the process for people like you who have maybe like a good reputation of sending in cards that are that get authenticated. Because I just think otherwise, like you're what I think would start happening is like, why wouldn't you send your card to SGC to get it graded in like 2 weeks for $30? and then get it back and then sell it and then on eBay and then not have to go through the verification process. I just wonder how much this is going to change
I just looked
the selling
again,
of
and
raw cards.
So I just looked for the first time today, considering it's morning here, and it's been delivered to the buyer. So it took a week.
Oh, nice.
Which,
dude,
and
there,
I don't know
there
if
it is.
I don't know if you have seen like what they ship it in, but I mean, it's like a pretty cool presentation, like it comes with like a little eBay like fold out thing that has like a little thing that it sits in, and it actually gives you a little stand, like you can put it up on your desk. Now if you're buying
Nice.
tons of raw cards, it's like, it's not probably, you probably just end up throwing them away. But if you're buying like one holy grail card, like, and you want to set it on your desk, they give you like a little stand for it. So it's kind of interesting.
I mean, Julio Rodriguez, that could be that guy's grail.
Yeah, I
for
ended
sure.
up selling it to a guy who was who's a Mariners fan. So, he was pumped about it. So maybe it is.
Well, breaking news on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Kendall Lefty McKee breaking the news saying, look, this takes a week. It takes a week. That's like basically
There we go.
Not that much longer, not that much unlike regular eBay transactions to take a week. So that's good. That's awesome. So let's go back to Christian Santana then. I see that he's an 18-year-old shortstop, projected to be in the Complex League this year.
Yep.
So what kind of card did he have? Did he have a Bowman first from 2021, or what was this card?
Yeah, so I believe Christian Santana came out in the let me I don't want to mess this up. But I believe he came out in the Bowman Chrome in 2021. So
okay.
That he had his first Chrome came out in the international draft. I believe that's where he was like an extension of.
Yeah, because I see he's from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah. So also there's two Christian Santanas. One of them's from 2019 and one of them's from 2021. And we're talking about the one that's in 2021. But I just wanted to make sure for our viewers, they're not looking at the 2019 Christian Santana from the Dodgers. This is the Detroit Tigers Christian Santana in 2021. His first Bowman product did come out in looks like Bowman Chrome. So that's like, it's been out for a couple months. His stuff has been going nuts for a little bit. And to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about him. I haven't like really dove into him. And because he's been in the Dominican Summer League, like it's kind of just, you're not really for sure what kind of makeup he's going to have. But to be 18 years old and to be 6 foot 165, but also to have pretty good complex of tools put together. I was interested to buy at least one common auto, at least one Bowman Chrome auto, because a lot of people are talking about him. So even if I don't love him as a prospect, I don't have him in everything that I own. But in the Dominican Summer League, to have a 161 WRC plus and to have a slugging percentage over 500, I mean, that's okay. His K percentage is under 30 as well. So, and he hit 9 home runs and 215 plate appearances. So it's not incredible, but you are having some signs of life there. And for a 17-year-old and willing to throw him a bone.
Yeah, that's cool. So, most of our listeners and viewers, are really learning a lot from you coming on and talking about baseball prospecting.
Yeah, I realize I just went kind of hard right there.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I believe everyone's following along, but I'm going to dig a little bit deeper for everybody. So like, what's your thought process when you buy someone who's not necessarily expected to make it to the big leagues until 2025 at the earliest? Like that's the projection. That's the ETA from MLB.com. We know justbaseball.com is a better place to get prospecting information, but I'm on MLB.com right now under the Tigers prospects. And I see that he's the ninth ninth rated prospect in the Tigers organization right now, expected to be there in 2025. And when you have, the Tigers, for example, have other infielders. They have other shortstops. They've got this guy named Ryan Kreidler who could be up as early as next year, who plays the same position. Are we looking at him getting traded? Are we looking at him like what is your thought process as an investor in his card, in terms of like markers that you could sell this guy, and like what are those markers and why are there those markers, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it does make sense. I think for this card specifically, and for this guy specifically, and for guys this far out, I don't typically buy guys this far out. Like for instance, I wasn't big on Luis Rodriguez. I did buy into some Bowman Chrome guys, but they had to, be guys that I just particularly just like looked at and loved just instantly. And just there's some guys in each product that I just kind of like, I don't know if it's the stance on the card or maybe it's their name or what team they play for. I just gravitate towards them for some reason. Milcar Perez was one of those guys. His autos are like $15, but for some reason, every time I see a Milcar Perez, I'm like, oh, that's cool. There's a Milcar. It's like I have no idea if he's going to be good or not because they're so young. But for Christian Santana, the reason I went out and got this guy is he has a lot of hype in the hobby, and I think whether he's going to be good or not, it's a name people know. And sometimes in your portfolio, if you have like a lesser known product and you're like, hey, I'll throw in this Christian Santana auto, and they're like, oh, okay, Christian Santana. They might not have looked at him in 7 or 8 months, but to get a deal done, to throw a name in there. I like to do that strategy in fantasy. I like to like get prospects or guys on your team that aren't necessarily, who they were previously. But if you're like for a couple of years ago, I kept getting Evan Longoria, and he wasn't exactly a guy that was tearing up the league. But if you could throw in an Evan Longoria, that name alone made the deal a little bit better. And so I think that's kind of the strategy that I have with this. But I do think, looking at him, I do think he's worth stashing because if you look at his international ranking before he signed, he was a guy that people were excited about. And so these Dominican guys, like, it seems like everyone coming out of Central America is on fire and incredible, but there's a lot of misses that come out of Central America too that we just don't really hear about. So, it's definitely more of a riskier play, but at the same time, a lot of people like him, and so I'm kind of jumping on that hype train, I guess, if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really good analysis. So how much did you pay for the Christian Santana auto?
$50.
Okay, nice. I like that price range, and I've been of the same mindset recently in terms of what I've been buying, and I have not been buying that much recently because I've been working on the sports card investment report, mainly thinking like how would I advise everybody else to spend their money, which we'll get to shortly. But I did buy a Draymond Green rookie auto for $50.
Oh, okay.
So he's
there's an interesting case for Draymond in the Hall of Fame talk. I don't know if you've followed this. I don't know if you even wanted to go there, but I think there's some interesting talk there.
I'd love to go there. I want to hear what you have to say about that in a second here, but just yet. So it's just it's a raw 2012, 2013 Panini sticker auto, good looking card. And there's my thought on Draymond is that, and this is not unlike how I would advise everybody to make their investments. There's some markers coming up for his card value to potentially rise. Obviously, the Warriors are in a position where they look, I would say, guaranteed to make the Western Conference Finals, which is a big deal. That'll generate a lot of hype. There's also a lot of talk from everyone since he has been out with this back injury we think he's going to be coming back maybe in the next month. Back injuries are scary, but we've seen the Warriors struggle without him, which means that there should be quite a bit of hype when he does come back. And he did just make the All-Star team. So he's kind of had this resurgence in his career where he kind of fell off the map the last few years, and now he's back. And so I think $50, like, there's no way that doesn't go up. Like, there's just, I mean, it may not, well, let me rephrase that. There's no way that it goes down. It may not go up, but as long as it doesn't go down and I can get out of it what I put into it.
Yeah.
That's fun because you owned the card for a little bit and you got that thrill, right? So, but no, now I want to hear your thoughts on that and definitely elaborate on the Draymond Green Hall of Fame talk, because that would be great. That would be another marker, right? And just the fact that there is the talk is a marker in itself.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about guys that I want to start this off by saying, although baseball is like my full-on card element, I was a college basketball coach, so I do have some background in basketball. And when I watch Draymond, I think of like the villain, like when you think of the Detroit Pistons, when you think of Dennis Rodman, you think of all those types of players. I think and that's kind of what the media has portrayed him out to be on ESPN and all that. But I also think with that, there's also like this other side of Draymond that's like the ultimate teammate almost, like the guys love him. And, you see a couple of weeks ago when Clay came back and he was not healthy at all, but he started the game just to be on the court with Clay, and how big of a deal that was for Clay, Steph, and Draymond to be on the floor together. And that was a really cool moment. And I think it was like, although there was like a big betting scandal with a bunch of people when they found out, I don't know if you heard about this either, but when people found out that this was going to happen, everybody basically took the underline on like everything that he had, because they know that he was going to start the game. So technically the bets would be able to be made, but
wow. Yeah.
People were like under points, under rebounds, under assisted, because they knew he was only going to basically get one foul.
Wow. Yeah.
So
I like that. Holy cow. Well, it's smart if you're in there and you can make those plays.
If you were able to snag that and like the bookie actually paid it out. I don't really know. I'm not super into that. So I don't know a whole lot about that. But when you talk about Draymond and you talk about that team nucleus together, and especially everything they went through with Durant and all that kind of stuff and winning the championships, I think he's got like how Steve Kerr has the effect of being on that Bulls team. Like Steve Kerr would have been probably great in other teams, but he was on that Bulls team, which makes him like his name just goes a little bit louder, especially before he got to the Warriors. Like I think when you talk about Michigan State greats, he comes from a great college background. You got Magic coming out of there as well. He does all the dirty work. He's willing to be a great teammate. He's on one of the best teams of all time. He's won several championships. And I think another interesting thing is when you look at his all-time rebounds, the three guys underneath him, I believe, are all in the Hall of Fame already. And so you're like, well, okay, in at least one category, he has Hall of Fame numbers. And so, I don't know.
I also think he's one of two players of all time to get a triple-double that doesn't include points. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
That happened this year.
I think that he is on track to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, with everything you mentioned.
How old is he?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say he's in his early 30s, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna look it up right now. But I think that he, it doesn't take
31.
a lot to get into the 31. Okay, so it doesn't take a lot to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. I think it takes championships. I think it takes obviously stats. I think a guy like Draymond has a really good chance. And just the chatter around him is obviously probably better for the hobby than anything else, probably better for his hobby value. So just the fact that he's like relevant, and he has a podcast, and he makes it in the news. People like to talk about him. I like that you kind of mentioned Rodman. He is, Michigan State, and I love that you mentioned Magic. He definitely at Michigan State was like the fan favorite, and Izzo loved him, and no one ever thought that he would have a pro career. And then he got drafted in the second round, so it's kind of like, oh, he got drafted. That's cool. He got drafted. We're happy. And as Michigan State fans, and then all of a sudden he's like, a few years later he's an all-star, and we're like, and he's getting his second contract, and we're like, okay, this guy's, he's just getting started. So I think he's gone under the radar in the hobby, and I think there's markers coming up for him, like with the Warriors. I think winning matters more than anything else in basketball cards. And so the fact that he's gonna, he'll be part of a team that should go very far. Like you said, he's only 31. So if like Iguodala is older than that, and he's still on the team, so I could see Draymond being part of the organization for quite some time, and hopefully staying relevant. But I'm looking at like a flip. I'm a fan of his, so he is a guy that I would PC. But with this particular card, it's more of an experiment to say, hey, I think this is gonna rise to like a $99 card most likely in June or May. So let me try to flip it then for that and see what happens. So that was kind of my thought with that.
I think
I did make a couple. Sorry, go ahead. I think we're on a little bit of a delay, but it's all good. I'll go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I think he's got the profile to play for a while. He's not going to and he's not going to have to carry a team either. So I think as long as Draymond wants to play, I think there will be a spot for him on a team. I think there will be a role on a team because he's a bruiser, because he's the guy who's going to get in there and affect another team's mentality. I could see him being one of those off-season guys that gets, even if he's 37, 38, I could see him getting bought out and then on, a team similar to like the Lakers this year or like something like that, where they could pick a guy up that could be a minute influencer in a playoff game or, bringing energy places, he has intangibles that are going to make him valuable in the game for a long time to come. And I would say, like, I don't think it's stupid to say that he could have 8 to 10 years left, and so if he stays healthy. So because he's not going to demand a super high contract, he's not going to demand like the ball, so you could pair him with a bunch of different guys and he could play for a long time. So I think it's a good investment, basically, is what I'm boiling all of that down to.
Nice. Maybe I'm on to something more than I think with the Draymond Green call, because I always saw him as kind of a niche guy that maybe only Michigan State people liked, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's got wider appeal in the hobby. We'll see. So I did make a couple sales recently. Okay. I like to try to buy after I've sold a few things, try to keep things reasonable. One was a shorter term play that actually panned out for me that I was a little bit pleasantly surprised with. And another one was a longer term play that panned out for me that I was pleasantly surprised with. The short term play was RPA that I bought of Michael Carter, the rookie running back for the New York Jets this year. Nice. I bought his Panini Black rookie patch auto numbered to 50 for $20 in September and sold it for 42. So I was pretty happy about that. I think the RPA plays, I've talked about it in some of my earlier shows and earlier videos. And I think to not have to get the card graded is a big deal. And it just allows you to pick the player. And because it's an RPA, like, it's going to go up if the dude has any kind of hype or any kind of good game. So was happy about that.
So what I'm curious, what made you sell the RPA now? What, like, Weezy Carter definitely didn't have a great year. he didn't have an incredible
Yeah.
year, but he could have come out with the Jets next year and just blown it up. What made you like flip it now?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I mean, I think with me, I did invest in a lot of these types of cards back in September, and I'm a little bit nervous holding too many of them because not
Yeah.
every rookie running back or wide receiver is going to pan out. And I have no idea what Michael Carter is going to do. And the more that I think about it, skill position football players scare me more and more because of injuries.
Yeah.
So if I can get double my money for anybody that's a unproven skill position football player, I'm probably just going to go ahead and pull trigger.
I like
and
that.
I don't love the Jets or Michael Carter, so it's kind of like time to go. Totally fine with that.
Do you sell it to Gary Vee?
It's a guy. I will not drop the buyer's name on the air, but it is not Gary Vee. I wish it was. That would be pretty cool. I would definitely take a screenshot of that and post it if it was Gary Vee. But I'm trying to sell my Elijah Moore RPA to Lou Janu, who's a co-host on the Card Talk pod, who actually works with Gary Vee. And I heard him say on his pod that he's collecting Elijah Moore now. So, Lou, I've got an Elijah Moore rookie patch auto for you with your name on it, buddy.
That's pretty cool.
Hit me up.
Yeah, I think the skill position player, I think for running backs, or maybe all players, insurance on the rest of your life. Like I think pension and insurance, you have to play in the league for like 4 years. And so the league is knowing, hey, these skill positions are not going to last that long. I think the average running back is like 3.5 years in the league. So that's like, I mean, statistically that goes, they're looking at tons of metadata too. And so if we can get in that card realm of being like, hey, if you can turn these RPAs in a year or two, then definitely do it, because not everybody's going to be Adrian Peterson,
I mean, I think it's a real legit play for anybody out there who just wants to have some fun to try and pick up some 2021, 2020, even 2019 rookie skill position players. If you can get them for like under $30 or even under $50, if they're like a former first or second round draft pick or a starter at running back or wide receiver or tight end even, try it. Don't do too many of them. Do the ones that you really think are going to pan out. Like another guy that I have a few of from September that I haven't sold yet is Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos, because he was injured and just everybody forgot about him, and I got a bunch of his stuff for like $10, his autos and stuff. So he's a guy, Waddles? Kendall, that no, I didn't get any. Like, so that's the thing is like Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, all those guys were like way too expensive. Even Najee Harris, all those guys were like $100 or more. And I was strict on my budget. I was like, I'm not going to go over $50 per card. I'm only going to go for guys that I think makes sense to buy for $50 or less, their RPAs. So that ruled out a lot of the guys with hype. So like with Jeudy, it was like going back a year. A couple guys that worked out for me. One was like Kadarius Toney. So he was a first round pick, but he was injured. I got Rashad Bateman. So I sold the Toney for a good profit, but I'm holding the Bateman, holding the Judys, and then hopefully when the NFL season boots up again in 2022, I can offload those guys, because I don't want to be holding any skill position players. Like,
right. Yeah.
Unless it's one of my all-time favorites, like Barry Sanders, who if he tears his ACL playing pickup basketball, nobody cares. Still Barry Sanders. Unless it's that guy, I'm not holding them.
Yeah, I agree. The reason why I'm not super big into other sports is with basketball, there's just so few players that I don't feel like I can dig super, super deep. And I feel like everybody's kind of going for the same names. That's probably just That's probably not true, but that's how it feels coming from a baseball collector. But with NFL, it's like it's just people are just hunting quarterbacks, and so it's just
Yeah.
oh, I'm a football collector. Oh, actually, you're just a quarterback collector. Actually, that's
Yeah.
kind of how it feels, And so the skill players, if you can flip those, do it. Do it.
There's some flip there. You can flip those because I have done it and it's worked out really well for me this year. And it's I think it's risky because like they could never hit the field or they could get injured and be gone. But yeah, I think you definitely can do it, and you just have to sell. You have to know when to sell because like
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more. I'll tell you one more guy. So the Jaguars took a guy named Travis Etienne who was Trevor
Clemson.
Lawrence's college teammate in Clemson. Yeah. And they took him with their second first-round pick. So he's a first-round pick running back. Well, he was out for the year with a foot injury. So all of his stuff was super cheap. I ended up getting 3 of his RPAs this year for an average of about between $25 and $30 a piece. So I'll tell you, I mean, as soon as that dude comes out and puts up a baller game, I'm selling those, and I bet I could probably sell them for. Yeah, I bet they'll easily go for $75 to $125 each, and I'll just boom, 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 get rid of them because mission accomplished. Like that should be the game. If you don't want to hold those guys, like if you're not PCing the team or the player and you're investing, looking to make money off of those cards, like I think that's how you have to do it because I've seen guys go down the next week. Like I've seen Rondale Moore's prices fluctuated big time. Najee Harris prices fluctuated big time. Kadarius Toney, I sold after his one big game this year, and then his prices were down. So big time like stock market volatility on those NFL guys. And man, I'm a big fantasy football guy, so I feel fortunate that I was able to kind of get in and get out of some of those because it's just like playing fantasy football. You're all excited one minute. The next minute, you see the news and they're out for 10 weeks or whatever for the season. And you're just like, all right, well, can't do anything with this card now. But so the other card real quick that I sold this past week was a soccer card that I bought in Spain and then brought it back to the United States and had it graded by SGC, and it got a 10. And I sold it for $99. And I think all in, I probably paid maybe $5 for the card and then $30 at SGC for the grading. So
Nice.
All in $35, got out of it for $99. So I was obviously very happy with that. And it was a Panini Adrenaline La Liga special insert card with Ansu Fati and Pedri on it. So Pedri is a rookie. That was his rookie season of 2020, and Ansu Fati's second year. So I would not recommend buying Panini Adrenaline cards as an investment, but in particular cases, there could be a play made for like these special insert cards. And if you are able to get them graded a 10, which is not easy either, then you are able to sell them for much higher than you bought them for. So I was happy about that.
That's awesome.
I
there
like will
both
be
of
people
those
in the
guys.
comments that will say never buy
never buy
Adrenaline as an investment.
Yeah, exactly. I think we I've had some Adrenaline cards and I thought they were going to go up and they just didn't. And so I was like, okay, sick. But
I know. Even like, and I've got a little bit of a soapbox on soccer cards before we move on to the next topic. I think that Americans are very hung up on Prism. And so with like the World Cup Prism sets from like 2014, 2018, et cetera, it's like it seems to be like the only soccer cards that people will invest in. But Panini makes so many other brands of legit soccer cards and stickers that I get frustrated sometimes that people don't sort of get off their Prism high horse and look at some other things. I think that the 2018 World Cup stickers are investable and flippable. they're not as sought after as Prism, and I can't make them as sought after as Prism, but I do think that they have a place, and especially in high grades. And I think Mega Cracks is overlooked quite a bit because I mean, the only reason that Americans know the brand Mega Cracks is because it happens to be Messi and Ronaldo have Mega Cracks cards that are considered Messi's true rookie from, I think, 2004. Ronaldo has a 2002 Mega Cracks card for Real Madrid. And so, like Ansu Fati has a Mega Cracks rookie that's pretty valuable from 2019. Pedri has Mega Cracks. But I mean, there's even Panini stickers that are the licensed La Liga stickers. So I don't know if it's maybe because everyone's hung up on maybe Premier League or the U.S. men's national team or what it is, but I feel like there are some guys that are in other European leagues that have different brands of cards that maybe there's just like not enough awareness, or the people who collect soccer kind of look down on these brands, but I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if you have a take on that, but
yeah, I think for me, just so the viewers know a little bit more, like I've said, like, oh, I don't collect basketball, football. Okay, cool. The only other sport I do collect is soccer. So, so I have basketball or baseball and soccer cards. And so I'm really into Merlin. I like that as a set. I think they came out with some incredible looking cards, especially this past year. But I also fall into the typical American where I really only want to invest in the U.S. men's national team players. But I wouldn't say that's not like my only focus. That's just the ones that I think are having the opportunity to just really boom in this next calendar year. I think with, if all things go right in March and in the next qualifiers and the U.S. makes the World Cup, we could see those men's national team cards go for stupid money in the next winter, and I think guys that are not necessarily Pulisic or McKinney are going to go for a ton of money because people are going to get to see Brennan Aronson for the first time, or they're going to get to see Gio Reyna or even guys that are even less known than that, like Busio or things like that. I think those guys are going to be investable opportunities. But I specifically like the Topps products in terms of soccer cards.
Mm-hmm.
I know that soccer does Topps is like has baseball and soccer, and now with Fanatics owning Topps specifically and not really knowing what they're going to do with Panini, I could see their soccer branding even getting even larger because of that. And that's remained to be seen whether Panini is involved in any of that Fanatic stuff or anything like that. And that's kind of like a TBD on the soccer market. But I think Americans are good plays right now. And I ended up buying a Holland card for like, I think, let's see, I bought it for 180. And it's his it's a Red Bulls card he has. So it's like one of the first ones. Was it Leipzig that he played for?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest.
So I think it's Leipzig. But so it's his red jersey card, not his Dortmund card.
Okay.
But I ended up getting it from a guy. I traded him a Juan Soto. He's like, I don't even know who this guy is, Bell, and total American thing. And I was like, oh, I'll take him off your hands. I know who he is. And I ended up getting it graded, and it graded a 9.5 at Beckett. So I'm holding a 9.5.
That's amazing.
Holland rookie card right now, and man, I'm honestly expecting that to just fly as soon as he signs with Madrid or wherever he signs.
That's amazing. So yeah, he's gonna sign. Yeah, he's gonna. I mean, I hope he comes to La Liga because obvious reasons. Being here in Spain, we need another.
La Liga deserves it. Really, they need somebody like that.
Yeah. And so I'm definitely biased. You can help me. I'm glad we're talking soccer. Let's stay in soccer for a few more minutes. So I've been struggling as a fan because I believe that you're absolutely right that the U.S. men's national team, their cards are investable right now and they are going to rise in value. I just think it's silly to me because I don't think many of those players are going to be even close to the best players in the world. They're going to be the best players that Americans know about because Americans are only paying attention to the U.S. men's national team. And I'm struggling with my belief that that's super silly versus like not being able to change the fact that that's true. You know what I mean? Like, just because I don't think it's right doesn't mean that it's not happening. And so as a investor, I'm trying to calibrate my mind and be like, don't just go on this bandwagon of all these other players. Like, you can't make them popular. The market is the market. And the market right now thinks like Ricardo Pepe and a bunch of the guys that you mentioned are like the guys. Whereas I'm looking at guys like Pedri and Mbappe and, you know, I'm even kind of saying like, well, what about Neymar? What about Vinicius Jr.? Like, what about these guys that, and there's another guy I wanted to throw out there because I'm leading up to asking you about this one particular player. There's a guy who plays for Valencia CF here where I live, and he's 18 years old, and he chose the U.S. men's national team over England, and no one ever talks about him, and his name's Yunus Musa.
And I love him. From Brooklyn. I love Musa.
So let's talk about Musa. Like, why aren't people paying attention to Yunus Musa? Like, is it just because like the same reason you mentioned, like dudes don't even know who Erling Haaland is, or like what's the deal?
Okay, Musa is a guy that definitely is going to be skyrocketed in the World Cup because he's a guy that has earned a position under Berhalter, you know. And so Musa is a guy that's young. He's playing in a league that really needs a superstar. He's on a team that is his own, really, and he's a guy that could just explode in value. I love that play. You know, I'm surprised that I actually forgot about him earlier because that MMA midfield is going to be huge for the U.S. men's national team with him, Adams, and McKinney. And for him being in that echelon in the United States men's national team, being that young, being at a team in La Liga that has some things to prove, I think he's a great play right now. And I don't know. I think honestly what it is people – there was like an initial like boom in his stuff, and then people fell off because I don't know if this is petty, but it's like he doesn't have an American sounding name. And so I think that people don't necessarily, you know, they don't look at him and they're not like, oh, that's, you know, a guy from the men's national team. It's not, you know, who's that guy? Bobby Wood, you know, like that's totally an American name, you know, like, but Bobby Wood is nowhere close to being what Musa is, you know. And so I think there's guys that are going to be all over this World Cup that are going to be investable opportunities. And I think that the men's national team, although like I'm kind of there with you in the fact that I really struggle sometimes with finding the players that necessarily I think should be valuable and what the media says is selling. And the people typically, especially like that aren't, you know, neck deep in analysis, they just are buying what other people are buying. And that kind of goes back to my Christian Santana buy earlier of like, you know, I don't think he's the best guy, and I don't think he's going to be, you know, the best player on the Tigers or whatever, but people like his cards and they like the way they look, and his signature is legible, you know. And so I think it's that same thing with like Jasson Dominguez, that card that sold for $500,000 yesterday or 2 days ago. I was like, are you kidding me? Jasson Dominguez literally, I mean, like Yankees people think that his floor is like Mike Trout, which is so stupid, you know, like this guy could literally never see the big leagues potentially, you know, like, but he's selling for massive, massive money. There was literally a Horace Wagner that sold for the same amount as Jasson Dominguez yesterday. And that's like one of the biggest baseball cards of all time. And I was just like,
is this going to be the Ryan Leaf of baseball cards?
Exactly. Yes. I mean, but at the same time, I'm going to continue selling Jasson Dominguez because everybody wants to buy him, you know? And so it's like,
totally.
I don't believe he's going to be incredible. And I actually I mean, like, if you look at justbaseball.com, another shameless plug, we actually think he's going to be pretty horrible. But like, he doesn't field. He's very unflexible. Like, he's just a masher. I don't know how he got the 5-tool prospect. Like, anyway, I'm going to stay off that for a little bit and go back to soccer. But there's basically guys out there that are my Yankees, Jasson Dominguez, in soccer that you're going to have to sell. You're going to have to buy to flip, you know, and you're going to have to get a Pulisic card and flip it in the World Cup because some American is going to be like, I need that number 10 guy, you know, like, because
I know. I just need to get over it. I need to get over it. And like, I need to, I think
do you want to make money or do you want to have cards that you like, you know, like that's kind of the play, you know?
Well, yeah. And so another thing is, like, I put out a video, like my top 5 soccer cards to invest in 2022. And the reason why it's doing the best is because it has the most comments on it. And so, I mean, I figured that out about the YouTube algorithm is basically the more comments you get, the more views you're going to get on the video, which is great. But the comments are all like crushing me because I talk about Pedri, Vinicius, Yunus Musa. I think I put Fati in there and Mbappe, right? And in my mind, I'm like, look, Vinicius, Brazil, World Cup favorite with Neymar, plays for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Prices are dirt cheap right now for him. Like, why are American soccer players selling for more than Vinicius Jr.? My son came into me the other day and he's like, Dad, you got to buy more Vinicius cards because he's going to win the Ballon d'Or, the French magazine award that Messi always wins, right? So he's like, Vinicius is going to win it like in the next couple of years.
That's a pretty big claim, by the way.
Yeah. So he was like, and he's 12, but he was like, it's gonna happen, like Vinicius. So we'll see. If he's right on that one, he's gonna get a promotion at nooffseason.com. That's for sure. And then like,
is he a Madrid
fan? He's more of a Valencia fan than anything else, but he likes Madrid and he likes Barca a little bit. But yeah, he's mostly Valencia CF fan. So his big guy is. I took him and my daughter to a Valencia CF game against Atletico Madrid, and because we wanted to see Joao Felix play against, and we wanted Musa to get in the game because Musa doesn't play that much. I think that's another problem. Is like these prospects, like they're in the big league team, but they don't get really the minutes, and so. So Felix like didn't play, which was weird, but Musa got in for like the last 20 minutes. So anyway, I digress. So, but Musa looked legit, dude. He looked like, I mean, just his handles were crazy. So
did you happen to,
I'm glad you're saying good things about him. And
did you watch any of the United States qualifiers in this last round?
No, I haven't.
So Musa had one particular play that I was like, that might be the best play I've ever seen in an American like soccer realm. It was just a simple dribble. It was just a simple possession, but like it was from it's probably like midline all the way almost out to like almost into the box. Like he was in trouble and he had like to spin his way out of it, and the technique and the footwork that he had, I was just like, I mean, it like when I was watching it with our college soccer coach here in Lexington, and he was just like both of us, we were sitting there watching it. We were talking about like hot wings or something, and then all of a sudden that Musa does that, and both of us were like, "Whoa!" We just stopped what we were doing, and we were like, "Oh wow, that was incredible!" But it was like something that that was just pretty much like if you're just an average fan, you were just okay, whatever, you know, but to to a soccer fan who's like an avid soccer fan, you're seeing technique like that, and it makes you stop whatever you're saying and say, "Wow, you should invest in that guy."
Thank you. So I'll let all these people crush me on the YouTube comments, and I'm just going to wait it out until Yunus Musa becomes the guy, and then come back, and I'll be holding a bunch of his cards because no one wants to buy them right now. So that's cool.
Hey. I'm in.
Had to get that off my chest. I'm glad you're in on him, and
just so
I like
everyone
how you
knows,
downplay your knowledge of.
We did not want to know we were.
No, we didn't.
Way.
I didn't even know. Well, I was just about to say, like, you downplay your knowledge of other sports so much that, like, I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, like, you're the baseball guy, but you also know a lot about basketball, football, soccer. So I think you're selling yourself short, Lefty. I really do.
I just wanted, I think I unintentionally do that because I'm so focused on baseball cards, but I'm very like across the board. I know, like I'm into a lot of sports. So, and I play fantasy sports in almost every realm either. And so, yeah, soccer's my second favorite sport actually.
So speaking of fantasy sports, there's this concept in daily fantasy sports called bankroll management. And I wanted to bring that up in regards to sports card investing because I don't think that I haven't heard anyone talk about bankroll management related to sports card investing. I think like when I first started listening to podcasts and consuming content for sports cards, it was like, other than Sports Card Investor podcast, it was all about like the hobby and collecting. And like I had to sort of find my place. Like, why do I love this? Why am I doing this? And as you know, and the listeners know, like I'm all about sports card investing. Like I think it's great that people have PCs. I totally understand why. That's not really what I'm doing. And so I think I have like this, I say that to say that of the content that's out there right now, most of it is trying to kind of cater to multiple masters, if you will, where it's like, I want to talk a little bit about PC. I want to talk a little bit about investing. But like really everyone kind of wants to talk more about investing, but no one's talking about bankroll management, which I think is a concept that we should all be focused on, because if you don't have a plan for your bankroll, have a plan for your money, like what are you really doing? What you're doing is you're basically just like taking a shot in the dark on the hot new guy, maybe before it happens, or you're, taking a shot in the dark on something before it happens. And so with the sports card investment report and all the research that I've been doing, putting time into building out that product, I also started the mindset more than ever of, if I had $10,000 or if I had someone else's $10,000, how would I break that down into pieces as an investment portfolio? And then that got me thinking, that's bankroll management, basically, is what that is. Like, how much of that even $10,000 would I even put into certain cards? Like, I don't even think I would put it all in right away. I think I would hold X percent of it out. I think I would put X percent of it in. And then within that percentage that I put in, I would break it down by maybe guys like Steph Curry, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, and then maybe break it down by guys like LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, Joe Burrow, and then break it down by guys that are like O'Neal Cruz, DeAndre Hunter, Tyrese Maxey, Kenyon Martin Jr., Yunus Musa, right? So I know you're following the different layers. For everyone, for the audience, what we're talking about is like sort of your legends, like your surefire guys. Then your next tier of like have to really screw up for a long period before they lose a lot of their value. And then you're talking about like really have to perform very, very well before anyone even takes them seriously. So it's kind of like multiple tiers. So I just don't know that people even think that way. But do you think that way? And what are your thoughts just kind of on that bankroll management concept?
Yeah, I think go ahead and briefly say what a bankroll is just because like if someone is completely unaware, just inform them what that would be. Like you kind of just did a breakdown there, but inform a bankroll real quick.
Yeah, well, so
I have a concept of what I'm saying is a bankroll, but I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, somebody may crush me in the comments on this, and that's fine. But my understanding of what a bankroll is really more related to daily fantasy sports than anything else, and probably now FanDuel, DraftKings, and other online sports books. I don't live in the U.S. right now, so I can't participate in this, which is why I'm a little out of touch with the bankroll management. But as I understand it, it's basically let's say you put $500 into FanDuel. Your bankroll management is just, how do you break down that $500? Like, do you strategically put that into cash games or big tournaments, or do you maybe mix that up and now do like some player prop bets? And then based on the results of your bets, how do you then continue to manage that? Do you, like, let's say you're up 50%, and so let's say you make $250 back out of your 500. Now you got 750. Now bankroll management continuously means, out of that 750, do you continue to put in the 500 and hold out the 250, or do you manage it maybe the other way and say, I'm going to put the 250 in and hold out the 500? And then, like, what percentage of your overall ability to put into a bet, or in this case a card, do you put into the market or the game versus hold out in liquid cash? So that, I think, at a high level, is how I would just talk about the concept of bankroll management.
Nice. So if from my perspective, I would view it like a portfolio. Like, so in turn, you asked me like previously before we got on, like, what is my process of bankrolling? And to be honest, like, this is something that I'm working on. And then in this, like, as soon as January rolled around, I was like, I need to get better at a process of like having funds that are dedicated specifically for this realm, and kind of view it more as an LLC, or like something like, I mean, it's not an LLC yet for me, but like kind of think about it like in terms of like, this is allocated money here, and like, how can you best play risk reward here in terms of your investment portfolio. And I think what I have done, and the steps I've taken to kind of get to that way, is I've actually created a separate Cash App account for, like, my Cash App account is specifically for my investments. And so it actually comes with a card and all that kind of stuff. So I can I can deposit and then also like use the card like it is like a debit account, but it's just my Cash App. And so like anytime that I sell cards on eBay, I'm actually putting it into Cash App, and then I like pay myself out on anything like through that and moving it back into my bank account, but I don't move it all. So I can like keep, this is my card money, I guess, if that makes sense. And so it started as like like my wife and I budgeting really well and like trying to say like, this is our play money. But then now my play now my play money or whatever has actually just taken on more of like a responsibility of saying, no, this is my investment portfolio. And so what started as just like a play money thing is now actually my bankroll. And I'm trying to get more and more strict on that, of saying like, okay, how much do I keep in there at all times? Like, how is there ever a point where I just zero it out? Is there ever a point where I like push all my funds in on an investment, or is there any point where I need to get liquid out of my investments? And so I think that concept of bankroll is really, really interesting and important. And I think that although it's kind of second nature to me as somebody who's done a lot of like trading in terms of like Forex, and I have experience in crypto and also in stocks. And so that concept is really important. I don't think it's really important or even on the front of people's mind in terms of sports card investing. And I think if it was, and if there was an easy way for that to be tracked and all that kind of stuff, I think people would be more for it. But also at the same time, I think that people would raise red flags of saying like, oh, but then it becomes a taxable thing for me. Oh, then it becomes like a record keeping where I now have to like I actually have a responsibility for this. And like, the truth of the matter is like, the more legit you become in something, the more responsibility comes with it, and so if you're going to be a legit investor in sports cards, yeah, there are responsibilities you're going to have to do. You are going to have to do those kind of things. And so that I'm kind of getting on like a little bit of a off of sports card investing there, and potentially into some some things we don't really want to talk about. But
I think
Go
you
ahead.
bring up a couple great points that, yeah, I just want to elaborate on what you said because I think you're absolutely right. And the way that I would describe it is like, my guess is the reason why this doesn't necessarily exist as a real topic yet, although we're bringing it to the forefront, which I love, is this has been a hobby and people have wanted it to be a hobby and they haven't wanted to keep track of it. And they've been okay with like selling cards to then have money to buy more cards. And so maybe some people get a kick out of, am I up or am I down? But like, I would say most people don't care in the hobby. And they're like, okay, well, and to your point, they don't want to care because maybe they're scared of what the actual results are. Because then it becomes a topic either that they would be embarrassed by or that they would have to, I guess, pay taxes on, which I think, that part's kind of dumb. Like you should track it that way and you should pay taxes and all that, but that's a different soapbox, right? So I think that like the way that I look at it is there are more and more people paying attention to sports cards as alternative investment. And so I think like it or not, there's going to continue to be more and more people coming in, taking it seriously, like they take NFTs seriously or they take sports betting seriously or whatever, And so what I want everybody to understand is that you have to look at this like what percentage of the money that you're spending is going to go towards your reliable legends that are going to make the Hall of Fame and always be that number one guy. What percentage are going to be kind of the guy now because it looks like they could be the guy or the girl. And then what percentage is going to go just like towards total flyers, like that you, where you feel like you can be right. And then you can hold those bragging rights over your friends. Like, and I think there's, if you do too much of any of them, then you're in danger of really not making any money on it. But I don't think there is a right or wrong mix. I just think people should start keeping track of their mix or at least being cognizant of it. Now, I think you and I are probably pretty similar. I track everything in a spreadsheet. So everything I buy, everything I sell, I could tell you exactly how much money I've spent in the last, 18 months and exactly how much I've earned in the last 18 months and on what exact thing. I think another reason, but I'll just share this. Like, I think why it's been hard for me personally to really hone in on this concept of my bankroll management is because I had a bunch of my old cards graded and I'm still waiting for the grades. I'm still waiting for the cards. And I kind of want to start fresh with a bankroll concept. So while I'm tracking everything pretty religiously, because I don't have like half of my stuff and I feel like I need to get rid of that before I can be then fresh and like a brand new bankroll. I haven't like really fleshed it out yet for myself personally, but what I'm trying to do with the sports card investment report is like, if somebody is going to look at that at nooffseason.com, or if someone's going to join as a premium member and get access to all the content, I want to have those players ranked like they're starting from zero, like they're putting X amount of dollars in from zero. And so I want to have 1 through 100 ranked kind of by this formula of what's the balance of this individual player between like those three factors, right? Like price, I think pricing, legacy, and upcoming markers for outperforming their current status as a player. So I guess it's something that I think everybody should do. And like when you do it doesn't really matter as long as like you start to formulate it and come up with like a day, like if you're going to start it today or if you're going to start it after you achieve a certain thing, like I need to sell all these cards first and then I'm going to do it. Or, whatever it is, even if you're just like a hobbyist, like you want to make money. Like it's okay to admit it. Like, I think we're all investors here and, have a PC, but listen to all the content out there. And it's all pretty much based on the prices of sports cards. So
Right.
That's kind of what I wanted to bring to the forefront as a concept today.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I'm kind of in the same realm where I had a lot of learning experiences in the past couple of years where I'm like, okay, I feel like now I'm at a point where I really know what I'm doing. Like to a surgical level, and so um there's in my concept of bankroll, there are some things that I own or some things that I have, like here that I'm not necessarily tied to and would love for somebody to pay for me to get rid of, but at the same time, like how do you start that, and when do you kind of categorize that and things like, and all that. That's a great concept. And I think the concept of having so the way I look at it is goats, heroes, and flyers are like the way that I personally have done it. And so like I've told you several times that I'm out of basketball and football, but I do have a Brady and I do have a Kobe and I do have, it's like, I'm not even considering that part of my portfolio, because those are so long-term plays for me that I'm willing to like safety deposit box those, and so it's like, that's a completely different argument for me than an O'Neal Cruz. An O'Neal Cruz, my investment typically lives in the flyer zone. I have goats and I have like local heroes is what I like to call them. Basically people that are not goats, but like the local media just freaking loves them, so it's like, like there's some guys that are on that borderline of like, for instance, Dirk Nowitzki, I think is a borderline goat or a hero, like I think in Dallas, people think he is the best basketball player of all time. And I think he definitely has done a lot for the game, but I don't know if he's necessarily in the GOAT conversation, but his status will keep him in that hero, definitely a safe guy. And maybe that's not the best example, because he's definitely more on the GOAT side of those conversations than he is on the local hero side. But for instance, like, oh man, who's somebody that's not necessarily a flyer, but is not necessarily a GOAT? Man, I don't know. Anyway, so, but
what about like a John? Well, like what about like a John Elway? Like I don't know if we're talking
okay,
retired
yeah, that's a
players or
great
if we're
one.
talking,
Yeah,
like, okay.
but or like, yeah, anybody like that necessarily, like if you go to Denver and you have a John Elway card, people think you can just, it's a get anywhere ticket, like oh man, that guy's got an Elway PSA 10 on the wall. If you were to put an Elway PSA 10 in Kentucky, people would be like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like like
yeah,
that
exactly.
would sit on your table at a card show for a long time probably. But if you were to sit that on your table at a card show in Denver, you wouldn't even make it past the first hour probably. So I think that's kind of what I'm talking about local heroes. And I think Draymond actually fits into that category, like kind of tying into what we talked about earlier. Draymond fits into that local hero category for me, where like in Michigan State or in Northern California, I think Draymond cards probably are, you never have problems selling them. But at the same time, like if you're in South Florida, I don't think a Draymond card is going to be that popular because of all the crap that he's done to the Heat in the past, and so, and then
I was
the
gonna say,
Flyers
I probably couldn't sell a Draymond. Yeah. I was gonna say like Draymond. If I tried to sell him in Nashville or something, there's no way. Like, I'd get offered like $5.
Yeah, people would be like, "Yeah, oh, that guy kicks people in the privates," like nobody watches basketball there, and so. But anyway, there's just.
But I like.
Go ahead.
I like
done.
your concept of. Yeah, your goats, heroes, and flyers is like perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about, and so I think that the way that I've updated the sports card investment report is, if you were to have looked at it yesterday, before this show, It would be pretty much all Flyers, all heroes and Flyers, like ranked high, because that's where I feel like I'm kind of like you. I feel like if you give me the opportunity to tell you Flyers and football and basketball, like I'll probably hit on it 80. I'll probably bat 800 or 900. Like I'll have a pretty good bat. Like I'll have a Hall of Fame batting average at saying, okay, Gary Trent Jr.'s PSA 10 is going to be worth more than $20.
Yeah.
Like in a few weeks, just trust me. And so like,
Right.
But does that mean Gary Trent Jr. should be like in the top 5 sports card investments? And that's what I had to calibrate, right? And so that got me into the concept of the bankroll management, because it's like, if I'm going to take your money and invest it, am I really going to buy Gary Trent Jr. with your money? Or am I going to find like a really good Devin Booker with your money? Knowing that like if I say Devin Booker or Gary Trent, their trajectory over the next 4 months are going to be very different. Like Gary Trent will have to score 35 points a game over the course of a week to make the same jump that Devin Booker is like guaranteed to have in May with like one good playoff performance. So I think, other than the X factor, which is injury, you can never really, that's the one thing with sports card investing that you can never really control is injury. But if you're going to go more hero and goats, active goats and heroes, which I guess you could have some heroes that aren't active, but let's just say active goats and heroes are going to be far safer than the flyer play, because the flyer play, as cool as it might be to hit on like a Desmond Bain or a Tyrese Maxey or a Grayson Allen, the reality is like if they suck, then like you're kind of out of luck. I mean, you could be out of luck, like period. You could be left holding the bag on that guy, and that's kind of the worst feeling. So I definitely went more goats and heroes with the sports card investment report with Flyers mixed in. So you've got guys like, if you check it out, you've got Steph, Giannis, Booker, Brady. I added Mbappe because I didn't even have, like, Mbappe wasn't even in my top 50. And now he's number 5. And the reason why he wasn't in my top 50 is because I was like, well, like everybody knows Mbappe, and like to get in on Mbappe, you have to spend X amount of money. And then what's really what's going to make his cards go up? Like something spectacular is going to have to happen. But then I started to think, wait a minute, like if I'm going to spend your $500 on something, I'm going to want Mbappe over, say, Trevor Lawrence, for example, because I know that Mbappe has the World Cup coming up. I know that he's in the spotlight in PSG. I know that he's like already one of the top 2 players in the world right now. There's no way that he's going to have to really suck for like 5 years for his card prices to go down from where they are now, versus like if Trevor Lawrence like has a pretty bad start to the NFL season, like it could be a while before his card prices come back up again.
Yeah, I think when I spent some time this morning looking at your investment report, and I saw some of the movers, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And then I walked through a little bit of the high, low, mid, or high. Why did I say it like that? High, mid, low rankings. And sorry, my dog is kind of barking. It's distracting me. But I really liked how you transitioned some of those things. For instance, I think Giannis is one of the safest bets right now. And as a current player, it's just like, dude is incredible. If he just starts making, if he was able to get to like 70% free throws or 80% free throws, like, holy cow, this guy is going to touch every record in the record book potentially, besides like 3-point percentage, like he's going to do incredible things. And so for him having it up there at number 2 is great. And oh geez. I have a 90-pound dog, so when he decides that he wants to move, like everything moves. So but anyway, yeah, I think the balance is really important of spending being almost like a broker of somebody else's money is different. And if I'm thinking about my money, I'm like, oh yeah. If I'm thinking about it like my money, then I'm like, okay, I can invest. I'm willing to spend money on Lolo Sanchez because like I'm willing to handle the risk, but
you want to be right about Lolo Sanchez, which I totally understand. Like, I want to
yeah.
be right about Riley Green, but that doesn't mean that, or I want to be right about something maybe even more obscure than Riley Green, right?
Bones.
Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, Bones Highland or Cam Thomas or one of the other NBA rookies that I love. But like, that doesn't mean that I'm going to take your money and buy that guy's
Exactly.
card with it.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure that that's going to happen. So I did calibrate the report in that way, and I do appreciate you saying that because, and I think you did a good job articulating like the GOAT hero flyer is like perfect. But like one other point I want to make on this that I think is key is like seasonality. Seasonality is key when looking at this report because like you notice I moved LeBron up. Well, LeBron was like in the 40s. Now he's number 11. Well, the reason is because like he's playing well and his card prices are still kind of where they were. So like he's proven, and now Anthony Davis is back. And now it's like you're going to have some markers for LeBron and other context. Tom Brady just retired. What happened to his card prices when Tom Brady retired? So like then you start to think, well, if LeBron is this GOAT like Brady, he's going to make another run. He's going to maybe want to play with his son. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. There's going to be like all these ridiculous ceremonies when he retires, like all this stuff. So but the point is like LeBron wasn't worth owning at number 11 or buying at number 11 a couple months ago, but now he is. Another one real quick is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not in my top 15. He's not in my top 25. Joe Burrow is actually number 28. The reason why Joe Burrow is number 28 is because I don't think you should buy Joe Burrow cards right now. I think if you want to buy, like what you'll probably see is Joe Burrow will be maybe in the top 15 in June when nobody really cares as much about his cards as they do leading up to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford is ahead of Joe Burrow at number 27. That's because before the Super Bowl, I think you should buy Stafford because I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. But then you probably won't see Matthew Stafford in the top 50 after that. You may not. So I think seasonality is definitely going to play more of a role in this report than I originally anticipated. So the breakdown between the bankroll management with the GOAT hero flyer and then the seasonality, thinking of it like investing other people's money, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I really like what you've got going here. Do you want to move on to a different subject, or can we stay on this for a little bit?
We can stay on this for a little bit, and then we should probably wrap up.
That's fine. I want to offer a rebuttal. And this is, I think you have Patrick Mahomes too high.
Okay.
And here's why. I think, so I've been saying this for the past couple of years, but now it's kind of like, or maybe not the past couple of years, but definitely like the past year and a half or so, especially around the narrative of people saying that Patrick Mahomes was going to be the next Brady. He's got so many weapons that it makes it really easy for himself. But like what Patrick Mahomes does differently than Brady is Brady, his whole life centered around football until all of a sudden what we've just experienced, he doesn't want that anymore. I don't see Patrick's whole life revolving around football like Brady's did. I think Patrick will eventually become maybe not complacent, but definitely just okay with where he's at. I think he's going to be okay with not being the best ever. I think he's going to be okay with not, winning 15 Super Bowls or whatever. I think he's eventually going to go more into branding. And you kind of see that with like what he's done buying into other franchises. He's bought into all the other professional teams in Kansas City, I believe. And I think he's really cashed in on what he's already done. But I think even for Patrick, he realizes I never thought that I would be here. And so I'm going to just like kind of live in it. But at the same time, you saw in the playoffs this year how he was potentially he wasn't very good. Let's just put it that way. Like especially in that last game, he cost the Chiefs the game. And I'm probably going to get railed for this in the comments as well. But what I am low on Mahomes. For instance, like when I look at a guy who's going to be a perennial, like greatest of all time, potentially top 10, I don't consider him in that realm. I think he's going to be great. I think he's definitely a hero in our conversation. I think he's going to be the Kansas City. He's going to go anywhere in Kansas City and going to have a beer for free anywhere he goes. But at the same time, like, would I say at their end of their careers that Joe Burrow is going to be better than him? Probably. Like that's where I'm at least, and so, but I also don't think it's only. I think you have a couple of these quarterbacks that I would say are better long-term investments than what you could afford for a Mahomes right now that would not necessarily be worth what it will be in, like I think if you look at like what you need to buy into a Mahomes right now versus what you would need to buy into, let's say, a Lamar Jackson right now versus what Lamar Jackson will be worth in 10 years versus what Mahomes will be worth in 10 years. I think the play would be, I think retrospectively, we will see that Mahomes necessarily was way more expensive in this period than he should have been.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely always want you to poke holes at this because I think it's going to make it better. And I agree with your wanting to take a look at Patrick Mahomes. And I did struggle with where to put Mahomes. And I think that the only reason why I have him ranked over Lamar and Trevor Lawrence, because I do think Lamar and Trevor Lawrence have a ways to go still in their value.
Yeah.
Like they should, and even Trey Lance, like I debated, like, should Trey Lance not be like
I'm curious.
in the top 5,
I'm
right?
curious about him in here. Like I was like, oh, Trey Lance at 19. Okay.
Yeah, I think I might have either kept him the same or maybe moved him down a little bit. He might have been at like 16 or something, and I moved him down. I think the reason why I have Mahomes in there is because it's weird. It's like watching Mahomes not be able to get to that second Super Bowl title makes me realize how hard it is, again, to win a Super Bowl. And he already has a Super Bowl. And as much as I want Lamar to win a Super Bowl, or I want Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence to be playoff quarterbacks and potentially win a Super Bowl themselves, because Mahomes already has one. It's almost like what you were talking about earlier with the Tiger shortstop, Christian. Help me with his last name
Santana.
again that you just bought. Christian Santana. So you bought Christian Santana because of his popularity. It's just going to take so much to knock Mahomes off the mountain in the hobby.
Yeah.
Like his market is so huge that it's going to take so much to knock him off that, like, I almost felt like it would be silly to not have him in the top 15. I think, like, I have to come up with real good reasons to rank Trevor, Lamar, or Trey above Mahomes right now, especially because I do think that because he lost the game himself, I agree with you. Like, he lost that game himself. Like, there's no way that the Chiefs should have lost that game, and Mahomes screwed that up for sure. Maybe you can blame Andy Reid a little bit because of the play calling at the end of the first half. I thought was just ridiculous. But I think his card prices could drop, and maybe because I'm anticipating them dropping a little bit this offseason and being at a little bit of a floor, it makes me like him a little bit more. I could be wrong on that, but anyway,
okay,
I like where you're.
I like that. I like that argument.
For
sure.
That's I gotta have with this whole thing. I gotta have my rationale behind why I have guys in a certain spot, and I think that's definitely what I wanted to talk about with this discussion. So Good stuff. And man, like last episode we did together, I mean, we could go, I think we've gone an hour and a half. We could easily go another hour and a half, but let's save that hour and a half for another show.
Sure.
So we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. And it's been great having you on as my co-host today. Is there anything you wanted to add before I hit him with the outro here?
No, I definitely plug this report again. I think if specifically if you're not knowing where to start, this is a good list of saying these are the guys you should probably be looking for or at if you can afford them. Some of them I would say like you're going to be a little bit higher than you can afford. And so I think there is ways to get into the hobby on necessarily not buying Tom Brady's, like if you can't afford a Tom Brady rookie. But at the same time, don't just buy a cheap Tom Brady card because it's a cheap Tom Brady card. Like if it's a cheap Tom Brady card now, it's going to be worthless Tom Brady card, probably in a couple of years. So I think that's another thing that I learned the hard way is like, oh, I'm going to buy a Tatis card. Oh, I'm going to buy this $1 Tatis card, and it because everything's going up on Tatis. Well, now that Tatis card is worth even less than $1, so it's like those are things that I think if we can help new people out about saying don't necessarily buy a cheap version of the top 5 guys, because there's a reason it's already the cheap version. But
totally, there are no deals really. There's people know what they're doing, and if something's too good to be true, if it seems too good to be true, it definitely is. It's like that's why I'm all into the player prospecting angle, because I mean, you buy something because you think there are markers coming up for this guy to have card prices increase. And I'm glad you mentioned. So if you upgrade to the premium version of the report, you actually get not only the low end, mid range, and high end cards that you should invest in, but you get the play, like the recommended play with the guy. So you get the context around like why Booker's third, or why, Lewis Hamilton wasn't on the report and now he is, like those different things will be under the play section. So definitely take a look at the free version, but if you upgrade, you do get a lot more. And thanks for being on, Kendall. I want to give credit to our sponsor of today's show, marketmoversapp.com by Sports Card Investor. Kendall and I want you to go there and use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20%. Also, check out Wild Cards Box Breaks on Facebook, where my guy Kendall and his boy T, our friend T, do their thing. Definitely get into some breaks over there. Check out justbaseball.com. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Subscribe, comment, like. I want you to do all that good stuff. And thanks again for watching and listening, everybody. Have a great day.